10 years ago, in a quiet coastal town where the ocean breeze carried whispers of secrets long buried, a young boy named Liam lived with his family. Life was simple for 12-year-old Liam. He spent his days riding his bike around the neighborhood, playing catch with his friends and tagging along with his older sister Emily. Emily was everything Liam admired: kind, brave, and full of life. She had a way of making even the dullest moments feel magical. Whether it was teaching him how to skip stones on the beach or telling him stories under the stars, she was always there, lighting up his world. But one fateful summer evening, everything changed. Emily didn't come home from her usual hike near the cliffs. At first, their parents weren't too worried. Emily loved exploring the outdoors and often lost track of time. But as hours turned into days, fear began to creep into their hearts. The entire town joined the search, combing through forests, beaches, and rocky shores. Posters with Emily's smiling face were plastered everywhere, and helicopters buzzed overhead. Yet despite everyone's efforts, no trace of her could be found. Weeks passed, and hope dwindled. Then, one rainy afternoon, a fisherman discovered something horrifying near the base of the cliffs, a shallow grave half hidden by overgrown bushes. Inside lay Emily's body. It was a devastating blow to the family and the community. Authorities quickly ruled her death an accident, claiming she must have slipped during her hike and fallen to her demise. While this explanation brought some closure to the townsfolk, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. For weeks after the discovery, Liam barely spoke. He sat alone in his room, staring at old photos of Emily, trying to piece together what might have happened. Why would she go hiking so late in the day? She knew those cliffs well. They'd explored them together countless times. And why did she look so peaceful in the pictures taken at the scene? If she had fallen, shouldn't there have been more signs of struggle? These questions haunted him, but whenever he tried to voice them, adults dismissed him, saying he was just a child and didn't understand. As the years went by, life moved on, or at least it seemed to. Liam grew taller, quieter, and more withdrawn. His parents tried to fill the void left by Emily's absence with distractions, new hobbies, family vacations, anything to keep the pain at bay. But for Liam, the wound never healed. Every year on the anniversary of her death, he visited the cliffs where she was found, sitting silently among the rocks and staring out at the endless sea. Sometimes he imagined hearing her laughter carried by the wind, but when he turned around, there was only emptiness. By the time Liam reached his early 20s, he had built walls around himself, keeping people at arm's length. Friends came and went. Relationships fizzled out, and dreams of the future felt like distant echoes. Deep down, he knew part of the reason he couldn't move forward was because Emily's story remained incomplete. Her memory lingered, not as a happy chapter of his childhood, but as a mystery that gnawed at him day and night. Then, tragedy struck again. Liam's father, who had struggled with health issues for years, passed away unexpectedly. Sorting through, his belongings brought back a flood of memories, both good and bad. One evening, while going through dusty boxes in the attic, Liam stumbled upon a bundle of yellowed letters tied with a faded ribbon. Curious, he untied the knot and began reading. Most of the letters were mundane: bills, invitations, reminders. But one caught his attention immediately. It was addressed to his mother, written in his father's shaky handwriting, though it appeared never to have been sent. The letter spoke of regret and guilt, mentioning the truth about Emily's death and how it had been kept hidden all these years. For Liam's protection, it said. The word sent chills down his spine. What truth? And why had no one told him? Suddenly, the unanswered questions that had plagued him since childhood resurfaced with renewed intensity. For the first time in years, Liam felt a spark of determination ignite within him. He decided then and there that he wouldn't rest until he uncovered the whole story, even if it meant confronting things he wasn't ready to face. His investigation began slowly. He started by revisiting places tied to Emily's memory: the cliffs, the trails she used to walk, the cafe where she worked part-time during high school summers. Each location stirred bittersweet emotions, but none provided concrete answers. Then, one chilly morning, he found himself standing outside the cemetery where Emily was laid to rest. He hadn't been here since the funeral, unable to bear the weight of saying goodbye. Now, however, he felt drawn to her resting place, as though she were calling him to uncover the truth. Standing before her headstone, Liam whispered softly, "I'm sorry I let you down, Em, but I promise, I'll figure out what really happened." Little did he know, the journey ahead would take him far beyond what he ever imagined. Clutching the unsent letter tightly in his hand, he resolved to dig deeper, not just into the past, but also into the very earth beneath which Emily lay buried. Because deep down he believed that somewhere, somehow, she was still waiting for him to find her voice. And so, with trembling hands and a heart heavy with purpose, Liam took the first step toward unraveling the mystery that had haunted him for a decade. What he would discover next would change everything, not just about Emily's fate, but about the people he thought he knew best. The days following the discovery of his father's letter were a blur for Liam. Sleep eluded him as his mind raced with questions, possibilities, and fears. What could the truth about Emily's death be? Why had his parents kept it hidden from him all these years? And most importantly, what did they think he needed protection from? The answers felt like shadows just out of reach, taunting him with their silence. He knew one thing for certain. He couldn't let this rest. For 10 long years he had carried the weight of unanswered questions. Now, armed with a sliver of hope from his father's cryptic words, he was determined to uncover the truth, no matter where it led. Liam began by retracing Emily's steps in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. He scoured old photo albums, journals, and anything else that might offer clues about her state of mind during that time. One afternoon, while rummaging through a dusty box stored in the attic, he found something unexpected, a small, leather-bound notebook tucked between stacks of forgotten papers. It was Emily's journal, its pages filled with her neat handwriting. As he flipped through it, Liam felt a lump form in his throat. Here was a piece of Emily he hadn't seen before, a side of her that revealed not just happiness but also worry and fear. The entries started innocently enough, detailing mundane aspects of her life, schoolwork, friends, hikes along the cliffs. But as Liam read further, the tone shifted. In the weeks before her disappearance, Emily wrote about feeling uneasy, as though someone was watching her. She mentioned arguments with their uncle Mark over things she didn't elaborate on. There were also references to a man named Daniel, whom Liam didn't recognize. Emily described him as charming at first, but later hinted at darker traits, possessiveness, anger, even threats. One entry stood out in particular. "I don't know who to trust anymore. If something happens to me, look for the box." That last line sent shivers down Liam's spine. A box? What box? Was it literal or metaphorical? His heart pounded as he reread the sentence, trying to make sense of it. Whatever Emily meant, it seemed clear she had anticipated trouble. Someone, or something, had scared her enough to leave behind a clue. Determined to find out more, Liam decided to follow the trail wherever it led, even if it meant confronting people who might not want the past disturbed. His next move was to visit the cliffs where Emily's body had been found. Though he hadn't been there since the funeral, he remembered every detail vividly. The jagged rocks jutting into the sky, the sound of waves crashing against the shore, the salty tang of the ocean air. It all came rushing back as he stood at the edge of the precipice. Closing his eyes, Liam tried to imagine what Emily might have experienced that day. Had she really fallen, as everyone claimed? Or had something, or someone, pushed her? As he wandered along the narrow path near the cliffs, Liam noticed something unusual, a cluster of bushes partially covering a rocky outcrop. Kneeling down, he brushed away the dirt and leaves, revealing faint scratches on the stone surface. They looked fresh, as though made recently by metal tools. His pulse quickened. Someone had been here digging. Could it be connected to Emily? Or was it just coincidence? Either way, it was another piece of the puzzle. one he couldn't ignore. Back home, Liam pored over old news articles and police reports related to Emily's case. Most of them echoed the official narrative: accidental death due to a fall. But buried within the details were inconsistencies he hadn't noticed before. For instance, why hadn't anyone questioned why Emily would go hiking so close to nightfall? And how had her body ended up so far from the main trail? These discrepancies fueled his determination to dig deeper. One name kept popping up in his research: Daniel Harper. According to public records, Daniel had lived in town around the time of Emily's death but vanished shortly afterward. No one seemed to know much about him beyond vague rumors. He was described as charismatic yet unpredictable, often seen arguing with locals. Intrigued, Liam tracked down an address linked to Daniel and discovered he now lived several states away under a different name. This revelation both excited and terrified him. Was Daniel involved in Emily's death? And if so, what role did he play? But Liam's investigation wasn't without risks. The more he dug, the more he sensed he was being watched. Strange things began happening. His car wouldn't start one morning, only to mysteriously work again later. Anonymous calls late at night left him staring at the phone, heart racing. At first, he dismissed these incidents as paranoia, but when he found a note slipped under his door warning him to stop asking questions, he realized he was onto something bigger than he'd imagined. Whoever wanted the truth buried was willing to go to great lengths to keep it hidden. Despite the growing danger, Liam pressed on. He reached out to old acquaintances of Emily's, hoping they might shed light on her relationship with Daniel. One former classmate, Sarah, reluctantly agreed to meet him at a quiet cafe downtown. Over coffee, she confessed that Emily had confided in her about Daniel months before her death. She said he was sweet at first, Sarah recalled, stirring her drink nervously. But then he started getting possessive, jealous. She wanted to break things off, but she was scared of how he'd react. Sarah's words confirmed what Liam had suspected all along. Daniel wasn't just a harmless crush. He was dangerous. But as Liam probed further, another name surfaced repeatedly in connection with Emily's final days: their uncle, Mark. According to Sarah, Emily had argued with Mark multiple times in the weeks before her disappearance. When Liam asked why, Sarah hesitated. "I don't know exactly," she admitted, "but I remember her saying she wished he'd stop meddling in her life." This new information complicated everything. Could Uncle Mark have played a role in Emily's death? The idea seemed impossible. Mark had always been a steady presence in their lives, a source of comfort after Emily's passing. Yet the pieces were starting to fit together in unsettling ways. Liam resolved to confront Mark, though the thought filled him with dread. How do you ask someone you've trusted your whole life if they're hiding a terrible secret? Before doing so, however, Liam returned to the cemetery where Emily was buried. Standing before her headstone, he whispered, "I won't give up, Em. I'll find the truth no matter what it takes." As he gazed at the ground beneath his feet, a bold and perhaps reckless idea formed in his mind. If Emily had left a box behind, maybe it wasn't symbolic after all. Maybe it was real, and maybe it was still waiting to be found. With that thought burning in his chest, Liam made a decision that would change everything. He would exhume Emily's coffin. It was a drastic step, one that went against every instinct of respect and propriety. But deep down, he believed it was the only way to uncover the truth she had tried to preserve. Fueled by desperation and love for his sister, Liam set the wheels in motion, securing legal permission under the guise of relocating her remains. Little did he know, opening that coffin would reveal not just answers but secrets that had been buried for a decade. Each step forward brought Liam closer to the heart of the mystery, yet farther from the simplicity of his old life. Every clue uncovered raised more questions. Every conversation revealed new layers of deception. The journey was fraught with uncertainty, fear, and moments of doubt. But through it all, one thing remained constant: his unwavering commitment to finding justice for Emily. Because for Liam, this wasn't just about solving a mystery. It was about honoring the memory of the sister who had shaped his world and reclaiming the truth that had been stolen from them both. The decision to exhume Emily's coffin weighed heavily on Liam. It wasn't just the logistical challenges or the legal hoops he had to jump through. It was the emotional toll of disturbing her final resting place. For days, he wrestled with doubts. Was he crossing a line? Would this bring him closer to the truth, or was he chasing shadows that didn't exist? Despite his reservations, something inside him refused to back down. If there was even the slightest chance that Emily had left behind a clue, a box, as her journal hinted, then he owed it to her to find out. Securing permission to exhume the coffin required careful planning and a plausible reason. Liam told officials he wanted to relocate Emily's remains to a family plot in another town, a story supported by forged documents and heartfelt explanations. The process took weeks, during which Liam found himself visiting the cemetery more often than usual. He'd sit by her grave, talking to her as though she could hear him. "I hope you understand why I'm doing this, Em," he murmured one evening, tracing the engraved letters of her name on the headstone. "If there's something you left for me, I'll find it, I promise." Finally, the day arrived. A team of workers arrived at dawn, their shovels glinting in the pale morning light. The air was thick with tension as they began digging, each strike of the spade echoing like a drumbeat in Liam's ears. He stood nearby, arms crossed tightly over his chest, watching intently. His heart raced as the hole grew deeper, revealing the wooden casket beneath layers of dirt. When the coffin was fully uncovered, Liam felt a lump rise in his throat. This was it, the moment of truth. The workers carefully pried open the lid, their faces unreadable masks of professionalism. Liam stepped closer, his breath catching as the contents of the coffin came into view. What he saw froze him in place. Inside lay Emily's remains, wrapped in a tattered burial shroud, exactly as they had been 10 years ago. But something else caught his eye immediately. A small, intricately carved wooden box resting beneath her folded hands. It was real. The box from her journal existed. For a moment, no one spoke. The workers exchanged uneasy glances, clearly unsettled by the unexpected discovery. One of them muttered under his breath about how strange it was to find such an item in a coffin. Liam barely heard them. His focus was entirely on the box, his mind racing with possibilities. Who had placed it there, and what secrets did it hold? Slowly, he reached out and lifted the box, its surface cool and smooth against his trembling fingers. It was heavier than he expected, suggesting it contained more than just papers or trinkets. "Do you want us to take care of anything else?" one of the workers asked hesitantly, breaking the silence. Liam shook his head, clutching the box tightly. "No, thank you. I'll handle the rest." Once they were gone, he sat cross-legged on the grass beside the open grave, staring at the mysterious object in his hands. The weight of what he was about to do settled over him like a heavy blanket. Opening the box meant stepping fully into the unknown, confronting whatever truths Emily had hidden within. Yet he couldn't turn back now. Taking a deep breath, he gently unlatched the lid and peered inside. Inside the box, Liam found a collection of items that seemed almost too personal to belong to anyone but Emily. There was a leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed with age, a stack of photographs tied together with a frayed ribbon, and a tarnished silver locket nestled among scraps of fabric. Each item felt like a piece of a puzzle waiting to be assembled. Carefully, Liam picked up the locket first, turning it over in his hands. It opened with a soft click, revealing 2 tiny pictures inside. On one side was a faded image of Emily smiling brightly, her hair blowing in the wind. On the other was a man Liam didn't recognize. Young, handsome, with piercing eyes and a smirk that sent a chill down his spine. Was this Daniel, the man from her journal? Next, Liam untied the ribbon holding the photographs together and began flipping through them. Many were snapshots of Emily and the mystery man, posing happily, in front of landmarks around town. In some, they looked genuinely happy, laughing and holding hands. In others, though, Emily's smile seemed forced, her body language tense. Toward the end of the stack, the photos became darker, blurry images taken from a distance, showing the same man arguing with Emily in parking lots and shadowy alleyways. One particularly unsettling picture showed him grabbing her arm, his face contorted with anger. Liam's stomach churned as he realized just how volatile their relationship must have been. But it was the journal that intrigued him most. Opening it, he recognized Emily's familiar handwriting immediately. Unlike the entries he'd read earlier, these were frantic, disjointed, and filled with desperation. She wrote about feeling trapped, torn between fear and love. "I don't know what to do," one entry read. "He says he loves me, but I'm scared of what he might do if I leave. I can't tell anyone, not Mom and Dad, not even Liam. They'd never understand." Another passage mentioned Uncle Mark, describing heated arguments where he urged her to cut ties with Daniel. "Mark keeps telling me I'm making a mistake," she wrote. "Maybe he's right, but I can't listen to him anymore. He doesn't get it." As Liam continued reading, the pieces of the puzzle began falling into place. Emily hadn't simply fallen off the cliffs. She had been running from Daniel, from Mark, maybe even from herself. Her decision to hide the box in her coffin suggested she knew her life was in danger and wanted to ensure the truth wouldn't die with her. But who had buried her? And why had they allowed the box to remain untouched for 10 years? Suddenly, Liam's thoughts turned to Uncle Mark. Could he have been involved in Emily's death? The idea still felt impossible, yet the evidence pointed in troubling directions. Mark had argued with Emily repeatedly, according to both her journal and Sarah's recollections. Had those arguments escalated beyond words? Or had someone else intervened? Someone like Daniel, whose violent tendencies were becoming increasingly clear. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the cemetery. Liam closed the box and sat quietly for a while, letting the enormity of his discovery sink in. He now had tangible proof that Emily's death wasn't the accident everyone believed it to be. But uncovering the full story would require confronting the people closest to her, including those who might have played a role in her demise. As much as the thought terrified him, Liam knew he couldn't stop now. Emily had trusted him to find the truth, and he wouldn't let her down. Clutching the box tightly, Liam stood and walked back to his car. The road ahead promised danger, betrayal, and heartache. But for the first time in years, he felt a flicker of hope. With every clue he uncovered, he was getting closer to giving Emily the justice she deserved, and to finding closure for himself. Whatever lay ahead, he was ready, because the truth, no matter how painful, was worth fighting for. The box Emily had left behind became Liam's lifeline, a tangible connection to the sister he had lost, and a key to unlocking the mysteries surrounding her death. Each item inside told a story, painting a picture of a young woman caught in a web of fear, love, and betrayal. As Liam pored over the contents of the box late into the night, his mind raced with possibilities. Who was Daniel? The man in the photographs? What role had Uncle Mark played in Emily's final days? And why had she felt so alone that she resorted to hiding secrets in her coffin? Liam decided to start with Daniel. If anyone held answers about Emily's state of mind before her disappearance, it would be him. Using public records and online searches, Liam tracked down Daniel Harper, or at least the man who used to go by that name. According to recent documents, Daniel now lived several states away under an alias, working as a mechanic in a small town. The change in identity raised red flags for Liam. Why would someone abandon their old life unless they were running from something, or someone? Armed with nothing but determination and a copy of one of the photographs from the box, Liam made the long drive to confront Daniel. The journey gave him plenty of time to think, though his thoughts weren't comforting. What if Daniel denied knowing Emily? Or worse, what if he admitted to hurting her? Liam rehearsed different scenarios in his head, preparing himself for whatever might come next. But no amount of preparation could have readied him for the reality of standing face to face with the man who haunted Emily's journal. Daniel's garage was tucked away on the outskirts of town, a modest building surrounded by rusted car parts and oil-stained concrete. When Liam arrived, he found Daniel bent over an engine, his hands blackened with grease. At first glance, he looked unremarkable, just another middle-aged man trying to make ends meet. But when Liam stepped closer, holding up the photograph, Daniel froze. His expression shifted from curiosity to shock, then to something darker. "I don't know who you are," Daniel said sharply, wiping his hands on a rag. "But I suggest you leave." "I'm Emily's brother," Liam replied, his voice steady, despite the storm brewing inside him. "And I think you know exactly why I'm here." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air between them crackled with tension. Then Daniel sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. "Look, kid, I don't want any trouble. Whatever you're looking for, you won't find it here." "Don't call me kid," Liam snapped, his patience wearing thin. "Emily wrote about you in her journal. She talked about how scared she was of you. So yeah, I think you owe me some answers." Daniel's jaw tightened, and for a second Liam thought he might lash out. Instead, the man turned away, leaning against a workbench and staring at the floor. "You don't understand," he muttered. "Things got complicated. I never meant for any of this to happen." "What happened, Daniel?" Liam pressed, stepping closer. "Did you hurt her? Did you push her off those cliffs?" "No," Daniel exploded, spinning around to face Liam. "I didn't kill her." "Yeah, we had our problems. I'll admit I wasn't perfect, but I loved her. I wouldn't have done anything to hurt her." He paused, his anger fading into sadness. "When she disappeared, I thought maybe she ran away. I didn't know they found her body until years later." Liam studied Daniel's face, searching for signs of deception. For all his flaws, the man seemed genuinely distraught. Still, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that Daniel was holding something back. "Then tell me what really happened," Liam demanded. "Who else was involved? Who else knew about your relationship with Emily?" Daniel hesitated, clearly torn. Finally, he shook his head. "I can't say. Not without putting myself in danger." Before Liam could press further, a loud crash echoed from outside the garage. Both men turned toward the sound just in time to see a figure darting into the shadows. Liam's heart skipped a beat. Was someone watching them? Had word gotten out about his investigation? Without another word, he grabbed the photograph and hurried back to his car, leaving Daniel behind. As he drove away, he couldn't shake the sense that he was being followed. Back home, Liam spent hours poring over the journal again, piecing together clues. One entry stood out. "Mark says he's doing this for my own good, but I don't trust him anymore. He's been acting strange lately, like he knows something I don't." Uncle Mark's name kept surfacing, tying him to both Emily's fears and her arguments with Daniel. Could Mark have been the one Emily didn't trust? The idea gnawed at Liam, but proving it would require more evidence. Determined to dig deeper, Liam began sifting through old police reports and witness statements related to Emily's case. Buried within the files was a detail he hadn't noticed before. Mark had been seen arguing with Emily near the cliffs the day she disappeared. At the time, authorities dismissed it as a family squabble, but now it took on new significance. Why had Mark been there? And what had they argued about? Confronting Mark was the hardest part. Despite everything Liam had uncovered, the thought of accusing his uncle of wrongdoing felt surreal. Mark had always been a constant presence in Liam's life, a source of comfort after Emily's death. Yet the pieces fit too neatly to ignore. Taking a deep breath, Liam invited Mark over for dinner, claiming he wanted to talk about old memories of Emily. As they sat across from each other at the dining table, Liam struggled to find the right words. "Uncle Mark," he began cautiously, "I've been going through some of Emily's things. There are gaps in her story that I can't explain. Things people haven't told me." Mark frowned, setting down his fork. "What kind of gaps?" Liam hesitated, then pulled out a photocopy of the journal entry mentioning their argument. "She wrote about fighting with you, said she didn't trust you anymore. Do you remember what that was about?" Mark's face darkened, and for a moment, Liam saw a flicker of guilt in his eyes. "That was a long time ago, Liam. We argued because I thought Daniel was bad news. I tried to warn her, but she wouldn't listen. And the day she disappeared, Liam pressed. Why were you near the cliffs? Mark sighed heavily, rubbing his temples. I went there to check on her. She'd stormed off during our argument, and I was worried. When I got there, she was already gone. I swear, Liam, I didn't hurt her, but... His voice trailed off, and he looked away, unable to meet Liam's gaze. But what? Liam urged, his pulse quickening. Mark hesitated, as though weighing his words carefully. There were rumors, Liam, about Daniel being violent. I confronted him once, told him to stay away from her. Maybe I crossed a line, but I was trying to protect her. The admission hit Liam like a punch to the gut. While Mark hadn't outright confessed to harming Emily, his actions painted a troubling picture. Had his interference driven Emily to flee? And if so, had she fallen accidentally while trying to escape? Or had someone else intervened? Despite the lack of definitive answers, Liam realized he was closer than ever to understanding what had happened. The box Emily had hidden contained not just clues but fragments of her soul, her fears, her hopes, her desperate attempts to leave a trail for someone to follow. With each revelation, Liam felt a mix of sorrow and resolve. He owed it to Emily, to piece together the truth no matter how painful it might be. As he closed the journal and placed it back in the box, Liam whispered softly, I won't stop, Em. Not until I know everything. Though the road ahead promised more challenges, he was ready to face them. Because in uncovering the past, he was also finding a way to heal, to honor the memory of the sister who had shaped his world and reclaim the truth that had been stolen from them both. Liam's confrontation with Uncle Mark left him reeling. While Mark hadn't outright confessed to causing Emily's death, his evasive answers and guilty demeanor only deepened the mystery. It was clear that Mark had played a role in Emily's final days, whether intentional or not, but the exact nature of his involvement remained shrouded in shadows. The weight of unanswered questions pressed down on Liam like a storm cloud, heavy and unrelenting. He knew he couldn't stop now. Every clue brought him closer to the truth, even if it meant uncovering painful secrets about people he once trusted. The next morning, Liam woke up feeling restless. Sleep had been elusive, his mind replaying snippets of conversations with Daniel and Mark over and over again. He sat at the kitchen table, staring at the box Emily had left behind. Each item inside seemed to whisper fragments of her story, urging him to piece them together into a coherent narrative. But the more he learned, the murkier things became. Who could he trust? And how far would someone go to keep the truth buried? As he sifted through the photographs again, one image caught his attention, a blurry shot taken from a distance, showing Emily and Daniel arguing near the cliffs. In the background, there was a faint figure standing farther away, partially obscured by trees. At first glance, it looked like just another bystander, but something about the posture struck Liam as familiar. Leaning closer, he squinted at the photo, trying to make out details. Could it be Mark? The shape of the figure matched his uncle's build, though it was impossible to say for sure. If Mark had been there during the argument, why hadn't he mentioned it earlier? Determined to get to the bottom of this, Liam decided to revisit the cliffs where Emily's body was found. Armed with the photograph and a notebook, he drove to the site early in the morning when the air was crisp and the beach empty. Standing at the edge of the precipice, he tried to imagine what had happened that day. Had Emily slipped while fleeing Daniel? Or had she been pushed? And if so, by whom? Walking along the narrow path, Liam noticed something he'd overlooked before, a cluster of bushes near the rocky outcrop where Emily's body had been discovered. Pushing aside the branches, he spotted fresh scratches on the ground, as though someone had recently dug here. His heart raced. Was this connected to Emily's death? Or was someone else searching for clues? Kneeling down, Liam began brushing away dirt and leaves. Uncover everything.